Hollywood, California. With me, you know him as the one and only virtual background czar, the one and only Pro GK Academy himself, Omar Zeenni, with an amazing writer, university background in the background. I absolutely love this one. This one is really solid. You got the whole graphics going on with, you got the mascot and everything, Omar. I'm really liking this one. This one is solid, man. And the reason we have that is because we have a New Jersey legend. I mean, we have a quota, Charlie, that we have to have at least one New Jersey legend every month on the show. And it's not that hard to do that because apparently everyone in goalkeeping came through New Jersey at some point in the United States. We have the one and only Rider College University head coach, Charlie Inverso, with us. Charlie, thanks for taking time, man. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Omar. Great to be with you guys. What's going on?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, first off, so it looks like Saskia will be joining us a little bit later. So that's a good reminder. So we might have some stories that we have to share about old school New Jersey from there. Well, Charlie, first off, one of the really cool things about, having you on as well, too, is that we've had a lot of goalkeeper coaches who've, I don't want to say they've moved on because I don't want to ever negate the position of being a goalkeeper coach, but let's just say they've pivoted and gone the direction of becoming a head coach or an assistant coach in the traditional sense. Before we kind of get started in that, why do you think it's so important for goalkeeper coaches to explore that side of the game as well?
Well, I mean, to be on the other side, so to speak, the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, Mike, I think that I was fortunate enough, like you said, to be out here in New Jersey to learn, I think, from three of the best coaches we ever had, Manny Shellshide, Mooch Meyernick, and Bob Bradley. And I learned so much from those guys about goalkeeping because you're looking at the other side of the ball and you're starting to think like the enemy thinks. And I can't tell you how much I've learned from those guys. So, yeah, I mean, we just can't isolate it to, we just can't make it this cult of goalkeepers that we have. And I think sometimes we do that.
I mean, I can't agree with you more in regards to that. I know that's a conversation that Omar and I have had in the past. I mean, Omar, I know it's something you had thought about too, but it's a matter of bandwidth. I think a lot of times for goalkeeper coaches, and they go, how much time can I put in to becoming a head coach? But how's it been for you in regards to with like the social media aspect to kind of being able to learn from a lot of the team coaches out there who are putting out content?
I mean,
Oh, sorry.
No, Omar, go ahead. I'd rather you answer that.
I heard social media. My mind was like, okay, I think these questions for me. I'm sorry. No, but go ahead. I'll respond.
No. It was for you, Omar.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to defer to you.
No, I think, I mean, Mike, any way, I think it was Thomas Schleck from Dortmund. I was talking to him and he said, Omar, I can read a book and the book could be a complete waste of my time, but it could be one line in that book that I go, oh, this made it completely worth it. So I think we talk about that and shift it towards social media. There's so much content out there and graphics and people, claiming they're experts. But for me, if I listen to something and an hour goes by and I hear one good clip, I think that's 1% better every day. So I think it's definitely, you got to filter in and out. But I've had very good fortune at Cal State LA, our coach there, who should be at a better school or even professional. Like the way he works us as coaches, the way we examine the sessions, the way we break down the sessions is next level. So for me, was really fortunate to be there for 2 years. So I definitely understood the way to approach a coach now from a goalkeeper coach's side and say, look, this is what we're looking at in terms of the scouting report that we're going to have against us. And I can replicate this only so far. Can we get services where, the whole line is stepping up and everyone's, converging back towards the PK spot? That's what they do very well. Can we get that in the session? And the goalkeeper coaches, what we asked, the head coach would be like, absolutely, let's do it. So now I'm finding out ways where we can try and put sessions together from both sides where we're working on the scouting report. And at the same time, too, we can work on our defensive shape as well, helping the goalkeeper and things like that. So I think social media has been great, but even just getting that firsthand experience at Cal State LA has been great for me as well.
Yeah, Charlie, I want you to kind of add on to that right there, because obviously, you're in the position now where you're a head coach and then you have other people, who come in and work with goalkeepers and whatnot. And I think one of the benefits of that is that, you've been on that side before. So, kind of how to guide those goalkeeper coaches into like, this is what you should be kind of gravitating towards. This is what you should be learning from these assistants right here. This is what you should be watching in these film sessions that don't just have to do with the goalkeeper, but because nowadays as a goalkeeper coach, you really do have to be not just a specialist coach, but understand, you know, what is the other team doing too that is going to affect your goalkeeper.
Yeah. So Mike, you and I talked about this, before we did this session, and I'm very big on getting field players involved with the goalkeeper session. And I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, you and I met when I was out at LA with the under 15 national team, and I was the goalkeeper coach, and Jimmy Barlow was the head coach, and he did a great, he was great with us because during the 30-minute warm-up, 30 to 40-minute warm-up, he would give me a third of the team. And I really, really think from that standpoint that you can't replicate what just what a field player, use the word field player, can do, and how much the goalkeepers can learn when they have the field players involved. And I think the field players enjoy it. I've never met the field player, and I hate to use that. It sounds like really old school. I've never met the outfield player that when you ask, would you like to train the goalkeepers? I've never met the player that says no. They always want to be involved with that.
Yeah.
So kind of looking at the other side of the ball, trying to think the way the enemy thinks.
Go ahead.
For sure, Charlie. No question. I think one big thing too, and I think I'm gonna extend the question to you as well. But one big thing that I learned through the whole process at Cal State LA is that, as a technical coach, which I think a lot of us who are goalkeeper coaches would like to pride ourselves on, that we see the position a certain way, and that's what makes us specialist coaches, and we can really develop those players. And I remember that stepping in, I was telling the coach, hey, I'm going to do this, this, and this during the off season and do all this technical work. And he was just like, Omar, look, hold your horses a little bit here. I appreciate that you want to be all the technical side and do all that stuff. But for me, I need a starting goalkeeper who's going to be sharp for 20 games out of the year. The technique and all that stuff, that's taken care of on the recruitment side. We'll see that on the recruiting side. All we need is for you to find the guy who's going to give me as the head coach the best peace of mind. So do you feel like that kind of, not a spin on it, but understanding that as a coach, your goalkeeper coach is supposed to get the guy ready, not supposed to really critique or mess up their technical stuff or trying to get them on this fluctuation of confidence, but rather get me the guy who's going to be my starter, give me the peace of mind, and give me the best chance to win throughout the season.
Yeah, for me, the top cry when somebody says, what do you look for in a goalkeeper? And I said, I'm not trying to be vague or trying to be a wise guy, but the guy that's going to win us a game. And there's a lot of intangibles that goes within that. It's just how does the team react for this guy? I mean, what key plays can he make? But in terms of goalkeeper burnout, I do think that that's a subject we need to touch on. I think sometimes that we give these guys too many reps. Again, I don't think I've met the goalkeeper that doesn't want shots or repetitions at him. But I also think that we have a tendency to burn them out. I also think we have a tendency to give them too much information. And that's another thing Mike and I talked about off camera. We talked about how important it is to give them a steady diet of decision-making plays where they learn their skill set, but also they just learn to develop instincts. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in the jargon, and I think that we have to bring it back down to earth, and just give them give them a chance to develop some instincts and put them in as many situations in training where they can develop those instincts.
Yeah,
Charlie, one thing I want to go ahead, Omar.
No, I was just saying, I actually watched something yesterday. It was on ESPN 60. One of their stories, they were talking about how boxers need to be protected from themselves. And their corner needs to throw in the towel because they know that their fighter can't fight anymore. So I think kind of transitioning that to us as goalkeeper coaches and as head coaches is like, look, the repetitions are going to be important during the off season or maybe even during the preseason where their bodies can have time to recover. But once season starts, take it easy on the reps. Maybe we fine tune or we do decision making throughout the session to fine tune those little triggers and skill sets. But for the most part, we need them to be sharp and ready to go. And like
Absolutely.
You said, less is more on the coaching side. I remember when I first stepped into like a graduate assistant role at Davis, we had a goalkeeper who's one of my best friends now, and he was having a rough go at it, but he was going to be our starter. And I was telling him, hey, you need to correct this decision, you need to correct this technique. And the actual goalkeeper coach came to me and said, hey, I'm going to give you more reps as the goalkeeper coach here, but he's the guy who's going to be playing this weekend. What do you think you're doing by giving him all these tips? And he's going to overthink things. He's going to come to the game, start questioning his decision making, his first touch. Just let him be. Less is more. Let him be, and he'll be great. So I think, yeah, to your point, Charlie, that's really important as well.
It really it's a position really requires a clear mind, and yeah, sometimes boy, we just give them too much. Just give them too much to think about, and again, develop instincts.
I love what you said there, right there. By the way, Omar, all that I like to think of is when you start bringing up the boxing thing is that I always thought I was like, I could try boxing, and then I tried the Oculus, the VR glasses, and I did the boxing game in the VR, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's actually trying to hit me. Like, this is like a fight happening right now, and it's scary. It's scary when someone's like trying to fight you and stuff like that. So that's what was going through my head while Charlie was actually trying to think of something profound to say.
You had a lot of careers that started one day and ended the next, Mike. But it's okay. We'll still love you, man.
yeah. Boxing career.
Don't come to Jersey. You're gonna have to learn how to fight.
all you guys, all you Jersey guys. My gosh, I see all those basketball documentaries and everything like that. It's insane. That's why whenever I talk to the Jersey guys about wide service and crosses coming in, they're like, this is nothing. You kidding me? Like, this was just, like, imagine what I had to do on a 4th grade playground. Like, this is nothing. And speaking of that though, Charlie, I think that's one thing I wanted to bring up with you before we kind of get into the topic. You were bringing up the idea of decision-making. Now, we had AB on, Alberto Brew, who's the program director at Real SoCal, a few weeks back. And I know that he had assisted you with the U18 national team a few years back. And he said one of the biggest misnomers that goalkeeper coaches make is thinking that game IQ for goalkeepers comes from their training sessions. It comes from the unstructured scrimmaging aspect of the game, because that's when they're left to their own devices and they can create their own autonomy and learn what works for them and what doesn't work for them. Do you agree?
Absolutely. It's a very good point by AB. And again, that's the wisdom that we can get, from the other side of the ball. And I think, I made an analogy that, that I know a guy that played briefly, pitched in the major leagues. He said he got better as a pitcher when he started picking the brain of the hitters, instead of just, being again in this little kind of cult of pitchers. He said he learned much more from the hitters than he did from hanging out in the bullpen with the other pitchers. So yeah, I would agree with AB on that.
I mean, I love what you just said right there. I mean, I remember when we had Michelle Akers on a few months back, she was giving us, and I saw Omar taking notes. He's like, well, one of the world's greatest strikers is saying this, like, this is something I need to relay back to my goalkeepers, if like that's what their mindset is here. So we really do need to, and we'll talk more about that as we see your session and everything like that, about we really do need to collaborate more. A lot of times, we talked about it before, is that goalkeeper coaches act like an island. They act on their own, and they think they don't know anything about goalkeeping. They don't want to learn anything about goalkeeping, but it's a two-way street. Are we inviting them into our world, or are we just assuming they don't want to have anything to do with our world?
Yeah, a little of both. I mean, I think we have to empower, especially the youth coaches, where there's not always a guy that can take the goalkeepers. And I think we really need to empower the coaches, and bring them in a little bit, bring them into the fold, and saying, listen, you can do this. There are some things, if you're willing to learn, there are some things that you can learn. But I also think it gives them an appreciation of how tough the position is. I do remember years ago, I used to do the goalkeeping segment for the license, and kind of do the A, B, and the C in 1 week. And I loved, for the B course, putting guys in the box, again, non-goalkeeper coaches, and having them field crosses. And, Mike, there were guys that were missing the crosses by 2 yards. I mean, they would come out for the ball. And I mean, they weren't even close. They were throwing their hands up, and honestly, they'd be off by 2 yards. And, it gave them an appreciation. So, catching a cross in a crowd is really hard. Like, you don't realize how much timing and how much repetitions that you need to do this. And so, yeah, we gotta bring both groups together. We've always said that. that we can't separate them from the rest of the team.
It's funny that you said that because, like, and Omar, I want to ask you about this, you know, and we will get to the topic at some point, guys. We'll be here for 4 hours anyway. Is that the risk versus reward on our side in that wide service situation, that crossing situation, is so much higher than it is on the other side. And if you've never experienced that before, you now understand the pressure that we're under to make a play or to retreat positively on that ball.
Yeah, no, and I think again, I love using field players in this session. If we have a chance today, I can show you a little clip of a training where it's 5 attackers versus 2 defenders, all field players, and man, you have to understand that the goalkeeper's got to be right on in their decisions. I mean, the path they take to the ball, they have to know what their skill set is. You have to realize also that every time we give a goalkeeper a situational play in training, we should kind of think that every play. So you guys, your playing career, if you faced 400 crosses, every one of them was probably slightly different. And so the more that we could make these plays look like replays, the better off we're going to be with our goalkeepers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's kind of move into this topic right now, because I know you got some really cool videos that you want to show. Today's topic, guys, is going to be defending through balls. Primarily, I think we're also going to talk a little bit about wide service. Charlie, for maybe some of the parents that might be listening right now, who might not be familiar with the terminology we use, and we like to do this because we want to make sure that the parents are learning at the same time as with their young goalkeepers, and we're all on the same page. What is a through ball situation?
So it's a ball played behind the defense. So it's a ball played, usually on the ground behind the last set of defenders, that the goalkeeper has to make it, because if the goalkeeper can either cut out the pass or, and you'll see on the videos, or it turns into a 1 versus 1 if the attacking player gets to it. So, and the reason why I think this topic is so important is because there are so many intangibles, and I studied goals for a long time. I did like this crazy 700 goal study, and what I found was that's the play where there's the biggest gray area on that. You say, the keeper, it wasn't totally his fault, but boy, they could have done this a little bit better. But for me, this is a game-changing play, without a doubt. And the more game-changing plays, you win the battle of game-changing plays, you usually win the game. So that's that's why I think it's an extremely important topic to talk about.
Yeah, Omar, how much of your content has something to do with a through ball situation or 1v1 activity?
I mean, I would say I try to keep it pretty fair all around. I mean, whatever I haven't covered in the past, I try to bring up just so we can kind of diversify. But for the most part, I think I try to just tell goalkeepers, even in situations where Mike, on my channel, I do something called Every Touch, where I show throughout the full game, every decision that the goalkeeper has to make, whether they actually impact the play or they don't. So I'm doing one right now for RB Leipzig versus Man United. And there was a through ball that went through. Rashford is clear on goal. And I forgot, Golashi retreats back to his line. So he's coming probably about 30 yards out from the center of the goal. They played an offside trap, ball goes through. He's dropping back to his line. And by the time he drops back to his line, that gives him the necessary amount of time, his defenders the necessary amount of time for them to recover. So on the highlights, they don't show you that. But if you actually rewatch it, now you can see, oh my God, okay, that was a through ball situation. The goalkeeper didn't impact it, but he made the right decision. So those are situations like that and plays like that where I think they kind of get swept under the rug from the like Fox Studios. They don't really look at those little things. So it's important for us to just watch the whole game, not just the final action, but understand the decision making that goes through prior to either coming for the ball or not coming for the ball. And I think that could give us a better picture as well, and like little data points that we can use as goalkeepers to be like, okay, you know what, the ball got played over the top. I have a defender who's extremely fast. They'll cover. And I had a guy in college who was like a 4.4 40 runner, super fast, can make up ground. So anytime that ball got played over the top, I didn't have any worry because I knew that he could recover that speed or that space. So I would stay back on my line, and sure enough, he did. So for me, it was just like, I don't want to have to make an impact, but because I'm a goalkeeper, and the coaches who may not know the situations will say, go, go, go. I think that's what happens with a lot of young goalkeepers is that parents and the coaches will yell out, come out. And that kind of fogs up their actual instinctual, probably the right decision, but forces them to make the wrong decision and impact the play that they don't need to.
So Charlie, let's pull up some examples right here so people have an ideas a little bit of what we're talking about right here. So
first thing I want to do is Mike, I want to see if I can, let me just see if I can find this.
Okay.
This is, okay. Let me see. Can you guys see this?
No, not yet. So did you try share screen? No.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, not yet. So just press the green share screen button and then.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
All right. No,
and then just choose the box that you want to show.
Okay, sure. That's it. There we go.
All right.
All right. I should be good now. Okay.
Okay. Here we go.
Before we get started with this, this is just something that I played around with for a long time. So on a through ball, I divided it into 3 different zones, and zone 1 basically is in the center of the field. Okay. And there's kind of like a funnel here, but what I tell the goalkeepers is that you have the confidence to come forward on this play because you're not going to be out of position. And that's basically all. And I set up some cones in the videos that you'll see. And then zone 2 is just kind of like a buffer zone that technically you're out of position. But most of these balls are so close to the goal that you can probably get. And the rules for zone 3 are simply anytime you come for this ball in zone 3, you have to get it, because if not, you've left the goal totally open. And I think it helps, kind of similar to the way you should learn your angles as a goalkeeper. You'd probably learn these zones as well. So let me get out of this and get on to the videos. All right. That's not it. Hold on. Okay.
We are getting to see your email box though. So that's
my my financial statements and everything.
Yeah. Hopefully there's no security stuff right there that
Okay, hold on. Let me jumped in. So listen, here's what we did on this. And I'd actually like to get feedback and some dialogue from you guys. The first phase, we would hit through balls. Okay. Get this screen. We would hit, just through balls. There's kind of like the zone 1 that we've kind of funneled off. And in this, we were stressing, try to see how many balls you can get. All right. Find out your skill set from seeing how many balls you can get and take a high starting point. So, all right, here we see. All right. And you know what? I don't mind mistakes in training. Okay. And I don't know how you guys handle it, but I just say it's a learning experience. I don't yell at the guys. We just say, what did you do wrong? I mean,
one thing I like right here, Charlie, if I can interrupt for a second, is that in regards to he tried to affect the ball. He tried to affect the play. It didn't work out in the end, but he's now going to recognize what it takes to make an effect and make a play that's positive.
Yes. Now I'm see if I make this okay. Good. All right, we can see you guys. We can see even more. All right. Next play, new goalkeeper. Not a bad play there. I think he takes the right route to the ball, the right path, as opposed to he went down on his left side, as opposed to going down on his right side, which is slower. You guys follow what I'm saying there, right?
Yeah.
So instead of he's going down the right way, which is a faster route to the ball. And I always say hands to the ball first. I don't say get wide if you can get your hands to the ball. Let's get our hands because our hands are quicker. And he does that there and does a good job. Okay, here's Dave, the guy that made the first mistake. And what I like about what he did on this, and again, I'd like you guys feedback. Hold on.
Omar's intently watching. Trust me, you'll get feedback. So.
Damn. All right. Here we go. I think he decelerates like right there. Okay. You see it? And that's one of the big points that we're trying to make and trying to get guys to do is, know when to decelerate. And Dave's got really good footwork. Okay. His feet are really fast. And I think he makes a good play there. Now, some of these plays are slightly over exaggerated. I mean, just slightly, but I think they have to be repetition, and you have to give them the learning tools to come out. All right. Jimmy did okay. Didn't hold on to the ball there. On this one here. Okay. I think good deceleration again, right? Do you see that?
Yeah, that's a good play right there.
But yeah, I mean, we run it back again, just, for the coaches watching out there, just watch how he comes out fast. And then he does a really good job of decelerating. And then I'm sure you guys teach that in your footwork stuff. There's tons of exercises that you can do. Here, Jimmy takes a good path to the ball. Now, the next phase. Now, of course, we're not going to do all of these phases in one training session. The next phase that we do is something, I call it tweeners. They're that ball that's played right outside the box or right on the edge of the box. Okay. And we see this play get messed up a lot. All right. So, and we're going to see one right here. All right. Jimmy comes out and, he didn't get to it. And that's a bad goal to concede. All right. And Dave does the same thing. So again, this is the phase of the training that we call tweeners. And eventually you're going to try to mix these all in. Good starting point there, would you say? Pretty decent starting point.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Omar, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think what I like the most about this, though, is that it's not just promoting to come out for the ball, but I think it's also just promoting the front foot, which I think a lot of goalkeepers don't kind of utilize that enough. And I think they probably naturally do. But I think if you really think about being on that front foot, where just like kind of in between where you can go or you can recover your movement, just like we do on a cross, right? A lot of that same kind of movement, but it's more a standstill. This is a little bit more covering more space. So I think being on that front foot where it's like you're always looking at the center midfielder or center back, and like whenever they look up, they can see you being on that front foot in the right position of like, hey, you play this ball, I'm coming. You know what I mean? So you can, like we talked about, I think with Nathan Thackeray, Mike, is like you can affect the play as a goalkeeper with a lot more than you think.
Yeah. One thing I want to bring up with you, Charlie, right here is that, a couple plays earlier that you were showing is that fast approach, slow arrival always, Omar, that you always talk about in regards to that deceleration.
Yeah.
What I loved about that play was the lateral movement afterwards, because he didn't chase the space. He knew he already had his space, and then he just tracked the ball. And then he made a fantastic play on it.
And so now with the zone one, what we're saying is like, this empowers you to get off your line quick. And really the whole thing is you really want to be closer to the play, because it makes the goal smaller. It makes you, it puts you in a position to collect a bad touch. So you want your guy coming off that line. You want your goalkeepers coming off that line, but now they just need to know, if they can't get it, when to decelerate. And I think you just have to do that through you only learn that through tons of repetitions. This is a play here where I think a better player would have got Dave. But he's at the edge of the box, and he said he knew the player, and he said he knew he couldn't chip him. So that's
but that's also important though, Charlie, right? And Omar and I, we've discussed this before, is that scouting reports are going to tell you things like that. Like, well, the player doesn't have that quality. I can come out for this ball on this player more than this other player or whatever. Just like, your left back may not be as strong on their right foot as they are on their left foot, all those sorts of things.
No, there's so many factors that you have to consider on this play, and you got to sum it up in a millisecond. And yeah, he knew that he couldn't, he said he knew him as a teammate. He said he knew he couldn't chip him. So, he got up a little bit more on the edge. This speed, this one here, Dave does, he's a pretty quick guy off his line.
Are you okay with that kind of direct clearance like that?
No, I didn't like the clearance. No.
Oh, okay.
No. I think he just touched. No. I think he just touched it because he didn't want to just smack the ball down, down the other end.
Some poor coach is watching this right now, and they wrote that down. They're like, Charlie says to have the player clear the ball down.
Yes, pass the ball to the other team. That's what we learned today. No. We didn't emphasize hitting targets or anything. I think Dave just basically said he didn't want to just smack it, so somebody had to chase it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I like this play here. Comes out and then he kind of retreats a little bit. But the big thing is he made the goal smaller, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy is a pretty big kid, about 6'3", knows foot speed going this way isn't his strength, but he can make a pretty big barrier. And that, he's a guy that the closer he gets to the play, the better he's going to be, because he's just cutting down all shooting angles. What do you think, Omar?
I got guys for a second.
Just froze up for a second.
Back on.
Can you hear us, Omar? Hello.
All right.
Can you hear me still?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I think my Wi-Fi is just.
You can hear you. We can't see.
Better...
You're okay. You might need to find a better Wi-Fi. All right. Well, then I will. I can also comment while Omar's doing that too.
Okay.
So Charlie, one thing I want to say though is that my concern, and I'm trying to play devil's advocate right here.
Yeah, no,
somebody's watching this and they're saying, okay, but how much of this starts becoming patterns that goalkeepers start recognizing and they just start playing the patterns rather than actually dealing with the reality in front of them? How do we make sure that they don't do that?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. So maybe in this exercise, again, you'll see as we move through this that we try to change the look that they get on every play, not on every play, but in every phase. And I think that point is outstanding. Is like, but this is a lot for giving the guy confidence coming off the line, for him to learn his skill set, decision making, and yes, this isn't something that. This isn't where you would leave it off at. This is something that you have, it has to be a progression. So in this part here, Mike, the coach tried to chip him, and he did. I had a coach out there because his leg's a lot stronger than mine at my age. But we do some sessions where that's the way we start. We try to chip the goalkeepers because we want them. And I learned this really early from a guy named Joe Matchnick, who was probably the pioneer of goalkeeping. He said that the better you are going back, the more confident you're going to be at taking a high standing point. Okay, that was 40 years ago. This one here, we just asked the coach to play a bouncing ball, because once in a while we got to mix it up and give them. We got to give them awkward. We got to give them awkward plays once in a while.
I love that you brought that up. I bring that up in my sessions all the time. I know, Omar, that's something you've been working on as well too. And you're lucky because the fields are so awful that you're working on right now. It makes it a lot easier for you to replicate that poor service. But is that a lot of times us as goalkeeper coaches, we want our sessions to be clean. So we keep giving clean service and having the players play clean service, when in the reality in the game, they're going to have to deal with those bounces off the turf, or a ball that skips, or a ball that dies, early, all those sorts of things. And if they can't deal with that, they're going to panic in the moment because they've never seen it before.
I've told defenders sometimes, like if we're doing something like this, and again, these are all field players, and this is why I think bringing the field players in is invaluable. I mean, I just love doing this, and sometimes I'll tell them on a back pass, make it a little tough for them. You know what I mean? Maybe give them a little bit faster of a pass, because they're going to have to deal with it in a game. What we did here, Mike and Omar, is now we moved it up to where there's a defender in front, and see, there's the defender, and I don't know whether we might have just staged that for the film, but this play happens once in a while, doesn't it? Where there's a breakdown in communication, and now Jimmy's in a good position, and this play happens once in a while. So this phase of the extra, this is much better play, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dave stays pretty connected to the play, but this phase and to your point before is like, we don't want this to be pattern like. The other thing I want to emphasize is for the filming of the video and for the brevity of getting it filmed, we just basically took them from different angles, or the same angle. you should be doing this. Coaches should be doing this from all over, and you know the whole range, wide range of the field. Um, but this is the defender in front, and Dave's making a pretty good play there because he's connected to the play. All right, and then Jimmy gets it right this time, so we can move on.
Before we do that, real quickly, Omar, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I want you to just kind of talk a little bit about in regards to what Charlie was showing right there in regards to that I don't want to say screwed up play, but kind of, you know, that miscommunication between the defender and the goalkeeper, because this is something that happens at the youth level so many times. And it's one of those where the coach just kind of throws their hands up and goes like, oh man, come on, you guys got to be on the same page or whatever. But isn't it our responsibility as goalkeeper coaches to teach that goalkeeper how to communicate with these defenders so that this doesn't happen as often?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think communication is huge, but also to make them understand that no play is ever going to be perfect. I think a lot of times, like we talked about earlier, even especially when I film with the older guys, I usually try to make everything as the best that I can so I can replicate the professional setting for them. But in reality, the context of a professional setting is, like we talked about with college, get them the necessary reps to really refine their technique. And then we're not trying to put too much in front of them because they need to be ready for the game. So when we watch these sessions, even that we watch like the England sessions during the international break, the goalkeeper coach's job is not to beat these guys into the ground, but rather to get them the necessary reps to feel sharp, not be injured, and then get back to their team healthy. So when we watch these things, we're in our head saying as coaches, oh, it has to be perfect, just like what we see on social media. And then we actually come to our sessions and to the games, and these young kids are trying to do everything so perfect where they have like this exact equation for this exact formula. And then when the game comes, that situation doesn't unfold the same way, and they panic because it's not perfect. And I think coaches as well, too, we need to understand, like we talk about, Mike, all the time, is every session is going to be ugly moments. Coach through that. Let it be, let it be, let it be, so that these players are familiar with that. And then when they step into a game and it's awkward or a 1v1 situation, just make the damn save. We don't care how you make it. Just make the save. We'll review the film. We'll talk about it. And then from there, we get better. But don't try to make this perfect save or make this ideal save when in reality, the game is never perfect and never ideal.
Good stuff. This phase, thanks, Omar. This phase right here, Mike, and again, to your point, you know, mixing it up and give it different looks. The attacker and the defender are side by side on this one here. And so, you know, again, trying to recreate something, you know, I'll tell you what, if you're not a goalkeeper, you don't realize how hard that play is. Okay. I mean, that you're coming out pretty fast. You're diving at someone's feet. Of course, you're putting your hands. I always like to teach this, like reach for the ball, because that actually protects your face. But, you know, you're really exposing yourself to giving up a bad goal. And I don't think, unless you've played the position, you realize how hard it is. That play is a very underrated play.
Can you play that again? Really? Is that the same play right there? Or is it
no, I could play it back. Okay. So they're side by side. Defender gets a little piece of it. Not a bad play here. Again, not a bad. Listen, if your guy makes that play in a game, you're not going to yell off the bench, criticize, little nitpicking points. Okay.
Yeah.
And they to me there, he just made the goal smaller. Next phase that we move in is now the attacker's in front and the defender is chasing. So I think this is really important part, because we get a lot of plays like this, a lot of balls played behind the defense. You have a defender chasing on. And I think as a goalkeeper, you can, I don't want to say be braver, but you can make the goal smaller, because this player, we have to realize this player is now under a state of urgency now. He's under a little bit of pressure. Again, I think Jimmy knew that this player wasn't able to chip him. Maybe under a different situation, it might be. Again, attacker in front. I think he makes a pretty good play there. He changes his direction. This is a part where it's just a straight 1-versus-1. Okay. Kid makes a nice shot there. Forced him to make a nice shot.
I have a question about this, Charlie, because there's been a lot of talk, and I know Omar, you've discussed this as well too with a lot of coaches, of the kind of like there's this for the lack of a better term, there's kind of I don't want to say a modernization, but there's kind of a desire to move away from the static 1v1 activity because it's not realistic to the game. How often is there just a direct 1v1 play? So what is the use of this for you in your session?
For me?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, just basically to give that to him, because you will get a play like this once in a while where the guy is broken, clear. I mean, maybe once a year, maybe once every other year, but you will get plays like this. And so there are different strategies. You get out really quick and then maybe you back up a little bit. Yeah. And again, like this wouldn't be something we'd spend a hell of a lot of time on, but it's just something that, that kind of just moves it along or changes it along. I don't think you'd have all these plays. You'd have time to have all these plays in one session. But the next one that we move on to is a 2 versus 1, which you're going to get a lot in a game. I think Dave makes a really good play there because what we're saying is don't move past, and again, this is where the zones come in, but he just kind of, to me, stopped and challenged the player. Not that one, but he moved forward on the through pass. So we say move when the ball moves. And I think what we want to teach on this one is the timing of his set position, which I think was really good. So we tell the goalkeepers to move when the ball moves, make the goal smaller. Okay. It's another.
By the way, Charlie, did you do something, and then Omar, I want you to add on here. For some reason, I felt like there was something that you did at convention last year where you said instead of using the word set, there was another trigger word that you were using instead.
Yeah, and I actually
there was a reason for that.
What's that?
And there was a reason for that,
not set
right?
position, and I actually stole that from another clinician that I heard right before. It was oh God, Tracy Noonan from.
Oh, Tracy Noonan, yeah.
Yeah. So you might have to refer to her on that one. I think she said settled. Yes, I did use that, but I can't recall the term. But yeah, as opposed to saying set, so you're not confusing the goalkeepers to think that you're stuck. But the point on this one here, Mike, is that you teach the keepers to move when the ball moves. The other thing is I have a little axiom that I use is if the ball moves far, you can move fast. You see what I'm saying? So if the ball is moving a far distance, you can get out and make that goal smaller. The whole process here is teaching kids how to decelerate. And I think Dave did a really good job on getting set on this.
And
That's one of Omar's bread and butter things. Go ahead, Omar.
No, I think I think as we all study professional games and even goals that we've conceded and our players have conceded, one thing that I felt like I was good at, and I think a lot of kids don't do enough, is understand, like you talk about, when that ball is being played diagonally and away from goal, as you're shifting across goal, that trailing leg can be extremely, extremely beneficial. And I think Courtois does it really well because he's so damn tall. Lloris does it really, really well, where they're coming across the goal and their natural body weight is coming towards the near post, which can obviously help them get to the near post. But at the same time, too, going across their body is going to take them a little bit more time as a striker. So as you're coming across, having that trailing leg ready to flail or even get it out intentionally is super important. And I think is a skill and technique that in this video right here can definitely be beneficial to give you confidence knowing that if you go all the way across the goal, the far post is won't be exposed and won't be vulnerable.
Good point. Hey, you know what I wanted to say on this one here is there's a couple of points that we can talk about. One is, we gotta read, we gotta think like the opponent right now. And, this guy's head is pretty much down. Yes, there are guys that could probably chip him from here, but ain't too many. All right. And sure, it's not this guy. All right. So we're telling Jimmy to get closer to the play. And get a decent starting point, okay? And it's a 2 versus 1. The other point that we're telling them is move when the ball moves, all right? And recognize, and again, we're trying to give repetitions of getting that set position. I believe here, I think he moves too far away from the first post and leaves the goal wide open, all right? I think that's what he does here. Yeah, you see how he kind of went too far? out of the away from the first post.
Yeah.
You know, and a better ball, I think he does much better here, and he gets set. I think that's a pretty decent play. And listen, those plays happen. You know, we talk about realism. Like Mike, you get those plays a lot. You know what I mean? I think you get a play like that a lot. And you know, I think Dave makes a good play on that one. You can't see it, but I think Jimmy makes a pretty decent play on that. This is an interesting one here. So on a bad, I consider this pretty much a bad angle shot. On a bad angle shot, a lot of times we see keepers trying to get up right to this point. Do you guys experience that as well? Like, I think that, you know,
I think we might have to ask another New Jersey legend, Saskia Webber, who's just joined us.
Hey, well, it's good to see you. Sorry for the delay.
How are you, Saskia?
It's been a while. It's good to see you.
How are you? By the way, this guy teaches at your alma mater, Princeton High School. So.
Oh, nice. All right.
So just to add a little useless information to the session.
No, that's great information.
So now, guys, I consider this a bad angle shot, and I like to tell keepers not to go wandering far away or to be moving. I mean, from here, I think I like to say 1 arm's length away from the post, and just to be set, because you'll see in the next video that there's not a lot of room to put this ball. Okay, so here puts it there. I have goalkeepers shooting on each other. So he's not a goalkeeper, but I like to have the goalkeepers shoot on each other so they actually get to see what this angle looks like. Because I think sometimes keepers are afraid to just take this position. I think Dave's a little bit too deep. I think maybe he should be up just a step higher. But, you know, this has got to be a pretty good shot for a guy to make it from here, as opposed to the keeper coming out here, and as opposed to the keeper coming out here and still moving forward. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I agree with you 100% on this. The other thing is if he's still moving forward, there's no reason to take too much space there, and you're gonna kind of get into what we've been talking about, maybe getting beat by speed, or pace of the shot. It's not a high angle. It's not a high, like, you're at a good angle there. You know, he doesn't have an open goal. So I agree, be an arm length off the post and maybe a half a yard in front, maybe a half a yard, like, or a half a foot in front. So even if he drills that lower near post, that if it's a reaction save, you're still in front of the post.
Yes.
And attacking the ball, as opposed to being in the goal and maybe that sneaking lower or upper near post.
Yeah, maybe just 6 inches higher.
Mm-hmm.
On this. So, and exactly right. So if the ball, you know, listen, the ball could get drilled right into this space here. And yeah, he could deflect it into the goal. But before I forget, what, you know, Saskia, you just joined us. I love having field players in the session. I think it creates realism. But the other thing that is great about having the field players is getting feedback from them. And on this play, you know, the feedback that we always got was, you can't score from this angle. So if you guys just stop and say, go ahead, do the best you can, it's like intimidation.
Right. And we talked about that with Michelle Akers. The other thing is if you come forward and play this, he's pulling you out of goal. So let's say he slots it. Now there is no recovery for you. There is no drop step into the goal for possibly saving the ball for a one-time shot into the center of the goal or far post. If there's a trailing runner coming for a near far slot run, like,
you hear the sound in the background,
you're done.
What?
So you're done basically. If you come too close and he slots that, you're done. You can't recover from that.
Yeah.
Do you guys hear background noise like a game?
No.
Or is it just mine?
It might be, you might have it on your computer or something like that. So
if it's not bothering the broadcast, then
it's not
fine.
affecting the broadcast in any way.
Okay.
I want to ask Omar here, because I think one thing that I know you've always discussed with people is that one of the reasons why you're always having your keepers, and I understand wanting to use field players as much as possible, but using goalkeepers in these activities as well too, because then they'll see it from the other point of view, and they'll see, oh my gosh, I never realized how there was no angle here. Why did I keep approaching? Why did I keep approaching? And Omar, I know you've been really big on keeping that depth in these situations.
Yeah, no, that's something that was introduced to me by we talked about it, Chris Sharp from the Rapids, and I think you know, even when I am playing as a striker in my sessions, where I say, okay, look, I'm going to get slipped in behind, or you can square it to the 18. You have to react to either one. And when I get slipped in behind as a striker, even as a goalkeeper, now my head is going, well, shoot, I have no angle, so my only place I can really hit this is low and across my body to that far post. I'm going to put my head down and just strike through it. So now, as a goalkeeper, when I step back in, I used to always say, I am going to load my bottom hand. Just because if that striker is a dominantly, you know, is a right footer and is going to put their head down and just strike through it from this angle, my right hand and my body, I can't show that I'm going to go low because I have to obviously respect the shot, but I need to be so ready for that ball to go across my body. And I can't just get a hand on it. I got to get a big hand on it. So I used to always tell myself, load the bottom hand, but at the same time, to be ready to sweep that leg to create the space for the bottom hand. So again, you need to be able to understand from a striker's perspective what most likely they'll see. And I think from here too, as a striker, if I don't have an angle, that central ball across is super important.
Exactly.
The last thing I want to do as a goalkeeper is, you know, suffocate the shooter and then give them an easy slot across the goal. You could get a Landon Donovan against Slovenia banging you near post. I mean, that's always an option.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. If you bite, and you, like Charlie was saying, if you bite and you come too far, if you come too close to the shooter, then he's going to slot the ball and you have no room for recovery. If you're still a hand, an arm length off that near post where his positioning is, you can still, and he slots that ball, you can drop, step, and recover into the goal and possibly make like the end all be all goalkeeper save. What I
have done in the past though, and again, it's just a lot of, you know, freedom with Mike knows that the team that I played for, our goalkeeper coach, our head coach Sharif would allow us to catch the ball and then dribble out of our box. So, you know, just kind of freedom with that. But I remember in these situations, I would always say, okay, if I'm a striker, most likely if I just show him that I'm probably going to start cheating up, he'll square it across, but little does that striker know, my feet and my body are ready to come across with that fast approach and slow arrival. So it's playing those little games of like, you know, tug of war of like, I'll give you a little bit, but I know what's coming on the other side. And it's like, hey, even with PKs, you know, there's some goalkeepers who stand on the far third of the goal and expose one side of the goal of like, hey, I'm going to give you that side, go for it. And then the striker's like, okay. And then you sprint across the goal and make that save. So it's just showing them the pictures that you want to see. But the best thing you can,
one of my goalkeepers do that.
But the best thing you can do is understand what pictures you're trying to portray. But you need to also step into the other side of the game where you're like, okay, what is this goalkeeper trying to show me? Okay, he's giving me this, I'm going to take it. You know what I mean? So just playing around with your positioning and playing around with the striker a little bit and getting in their head and making them think, which again, it's a matter of milliseconds. And you know, Charlie, in the college game, you're either a team that can score a lot of goals or you get a lot of half chances. UC Davis, we got a lot of half chances, and I used to I already knew, I don't know why I'm celebrating this because I know we're probably going to miss this shot, but hey, it's a half chance and we're not getting many opportunities on goal, so I'm going to celebrate the little ones we can. But I always knew that it was just like we lack that quality. And in most college teams, unless you're a UCLA who has the money to splurge, you're going to have some players. You're going to have some. You're going to have.
You can laugh. He's digging at me. It's all right.
So guys, Manny Shellshide with Region 1 ODP, you know, he would always tell us, you know, Charlie, your goalkeepers are moving, and we just shoot it when they move. And so I think a lot of keepers get to this place and they think they have to keep moving to close the angle down, and they don't feel that. Hey, listen, it's a little uncomfortable, but look at the difference. This is one viewpoint of this shot, okay, and that's one viewpoint of the shot. And that's the other viewpoint. So we talk about think like the opponent, see the other side of the ball. When you have keepers shooting at each other, there's a light that goes on and says, you know what? I can just stand and, you know, try to beat me. Peter Schmeichel was the best at that. He would just say, okay, try to beat me. You're not. And I'm going to stop right there. Okay.
Well, and back to what we're saying, this is what we were talking with Michelle Akers about when we had her on, and saying that when you stand a player up, when you make them shoot, when you're set, that it becomes harder for that player. She wants you to be moving. She wants to catch you in that transition. And, you know, age old saying, it's better to be set and out of position than it is to be moving, period. And, you know, now you can, if he goes far post, if you're moving to try to get yourself into position near post and he goes far post, then, you know, you're a split second behind. If you're set, even if you're a little bit out of position, well, now you can change direction and react to it. And, you know, we see it, and I agree with you, Charlie, we see it so much in players, and that's part of my thought process on them playing the drill in a sense, and not understanding, like, get set, see the shooter, see where the ball is in there, see what they're about to do, and get yourself in your right balance, in your right position, wait for it so that you can deal with it. You know, but they get kids, they keep running. They're like, I gotta get over here. We're doing, you know, 3-goal situation or near close shots, and you're, you know, just.
Yeah, and I think Saskia, just one thing is like we talk about, think like the enemy. A lot of times this guy taking the shot is under pressure, and a good majority of times his head is down, so he doesn't even see this. And you know, again, we've got to teach the goalkeepers: is the guy's head up or is his head down? If his head's up, he's pretty dangerous. Or if his head's down, he may not see the goal. He may not be seeing everything you think he sees. Okay?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Omar.
You know, that's where we're using the field players comes into such a big advantage.
No, I think Mike, and you talked about it, even we saw some of the footage earlier, so you didn't see, but that fast approach and slow arrival. I mean, I don't even know how many times on 1v1s I've come out and then my lateral movements, it's impossible because I'm going so fast. I can't stop my feet and move. We say all the time. I tell kids, go watch cornerbacks in football. When you watch them, their hips are slightly open so they can go downfield or cut the ball off. They're not standing square completely, because if they do, and that guy gets a running start and you're flat-footed, there's no way you're going to recover. And I've had situations too on crosses, for example, across the goal. I'm sprinting across and that guy headers it back post, and I never slowed my feet down to go to that far post. So it's like we're talking about, I think it's super, super important to expose those goalkeepers to the acceleration and deceleration. And then again, just let them make the mistakes. I think, Charlie, what I liked about this session so far is just allowing the goalkeepers to get their range. And I think we had Brianna Scurry a long time ago, and she was like, she's like, I've been in sessions, guys, where I literally said, I'm coming for every single ball.
Yes,
and it wasn't. Yeah, she's like, it wasn't because I was trying to prove anything, but I wanted to see what my range was.
But that was that was also Tony's mentality, and I was in those sessions as well. Was let's try this. Let's extend your range. See where you're at, even with the 3-goal situation, even with this situation. You know, see if he slots the ball, what you can actually get to, and you know, trial and error, and eventually you'll find a medium in that. But Brian and I used to do that all the time, where it was just like, even on crosses, it was like, let's just try. And eventually you find your middle range. But you know, you have goalkeepers that are too safe, that won't come. And then goalkeepers, like you said, Omar, that just start sprinting, and it's got to be an acceleration and a deceleration. It absolutely has to be. You have to remember that even if it's on a through ball or a breakaway, those players are running at you, and you're from a set starting like a solid, not moving position. So they already have momentum on you. So your acceleration into the space has to be fast, but then you have to control your body in that process of making the decision, your deceleration, set, and then your lateral movement.
Deceleration being the key word.
Yeah, exactly. And I have two examples for just to finish this conversation. One is De Gea, for example. If I'm a striker and I watch film on him, I know for a fact he's going to keep his depth from you, but he's going to go into a block save from every angle situation. So for me, it's like, okay, I'm just going to wait for him to do that. And if I don't see it happen, I'm just going to slot it to the right or to the left. That's all I need to see. Courtois, for example, for a long time would come out and just go into a spread. After a while, the strikers got, obviously the film on him and were able to see. And I think Messi, Suarez, all the guys who were going up against him, they knew that at a certain point, he was not going to see what was going to happen or how the play was going to play out, but he was going to default into a spread save. So all you have to do is wait for that last minute, let him go down, chip it over his head. Yeah. So I think it's on as much as we as goalkeepers are watching strikers and their tendencies, they're watching us. And if you have somebody who's going to, like we talked about with Michelle Aker, she says, if you have someone who's just going to give themselves up and you watch that on film, it's probably not going to change. They're going to be set in their ways. Yeah. They're going to go down, and all I got to do now is dribble around them, dink it over their head, and I'm good to go. So again, as goalkeepers, that deceleration, in my opinion, allows you to make a variety of saves. This depth right here from this angle, Charlie, it allows this goalkeeper to make a variety of saves. That near post shot, the sweep, or that cut across the goal. Even if he doesn't come for that ball, he can drop centrally and at least give himself a chance to get set and make a reaction save.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the biggest thing. Yeah,
and that's exactly my point. Like, and like Charlie said, you have to remember this player technically is under pressure. Yeah. Okay. Like he doesn't have an hour to make the decision. So if you can accelerate, decelerate, and force that person to slow down, and now shit, what do I do? You know, that means by that time, boom, your defense is there. So that's also a big one as well. And I think I always say, and I always told my coach at not Cal State LA, but at UC Davis, I was like, I broke my wrist one time. I said, can I play forward? He's like, yeah, sure. And I learned so much just about like.
Wait, hold on. He just let you play Division I forward? Like.
No. It was in spring. And
okay. I thought it was a fall game, and he's like, we're so bad at scoring. Omar, yeah, you play forward, fine.
I used to have a U.S. national team field player jersey. Just saying, never happened. It never happened. But the thought was out there, and I had a field player jersey.
Well, I scored 2 goals. I did score 2 goals. That's one of the, but I scored 2 goals because I knew there was a shot our guy struck, and I always.
It was spring though, Omar. What were you guys playing, like a U18 team or something like that?
No. But no, don't try to take that away from me. But it was. So
Sas,
Charlie, what's up?
Sas, what I was before you came in, I'm a big proponent of using the field players, because listen to all the back and forth that we're having now. Okay. And the best part is getting the field players together with the keepers afterwards and saying, okay, let's get the feedback. All right. What do you think? Or even right after the play. Why did you shoot near post there? And I think it's just invaluable to have these guys in our session.
And I've done that with our UCLA players, like when we're doing functional and I have the forwards or whoever and the keepers, I will say, what did you see? Like I'll bring the goalkeepers in and I'll bring the forwards in and say, how come you what did you see when you scored that ball far post? She gave up. She was too tight on the near post. It was obvious. It was easy for me to tuck it in far post. And the field players are answering that questions for their peers, for the goalkeepers, and they're learning as well. She's like, she was hugging the near post. So instead of me saying it, your own peer and your forward is telling you, that's why I just scored on you. And it's incredibly important to do that.
Yeah, one thing I want to bring up with everybody here, and Charlie, definitely you. One thing that I learned when I was listening to something that Casey Keller was talking about, years back, and it really made me change kind of my perspective in regards to how should I approach training the goalkeeper, because I was so focused on the final action of teaching the goalkeeper what their options are. He started talking about, you need to know what the options of the field player is, which is, I think, one of the reasons why you said it's so important to get that feedback from the field players afterwards, because like you don't really know how to deal with a situation. Like, let's talk about a through ball situation, which is obviously very difficult. If you don't know the scenario, the options that field player has, you're not going to know how to deal with it properly. But if you know, based on this angle, I've been there before, I've also seen the angle from the other side, this is what they can do there, this is what they can do there, and this is what they can do there. So I have to be ready for that, which is why I don't like to default into the spread save. I'm sorry, I just don't.
I don't
because
either.
It disallows you the ability to deal with all the different scenarios that can take place.
In my opinion, that's the end of it. If you default into the spread save, that's the end of it. You are down in that spread save. And I agree with you. I think you can utilize it. You know how I feel about distance and in a certain situation, but the fact that these kids today do that at the wrong times, in the wrong situations, is because they see it on TV, irritates me to no end.
Yeah. Now, Saskia, sometimes I think guys go to the stand-up too early, that they can close one more yard.
Agreed.
Okay. And that's the, Mike and Omar, that's the big reason why I like to do this exercise, because I like the player to know what their skill set is. How fast can I get? How quick can I decelerate? Because I for years, it would drive me crazy that guys would go to the set position on that play and give, you talk to forwards. I went on a trip with the national team, and Raul Diaz-Arce went with us. And he said, man, I just love to see when keepers get to that set position and I can get my head up because it's over.
Yeah, because, but I would
And
say to my keepers when they do that, I'm like, what? You're too far. You're not, you need to be a yard closer to take that set position. You are too far. Right now, you have set too far away, too many yards away. And now the field player is like, all right, let me just curl it around.
It's too easy. They don't feel any
Easy.
pressure.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, make the analogy to basketball. I mean, if you're going to let a 3-point shooter, if you're not going to run out on them, you know, and then again, the deceleration is.
But you're also not going to you're not going to stand them up too far away. Like there is a middle ground in that, and I totally agree with you. And I see it a lot where the players come and they set, and I'm like, you are a yard. You're technically in like mini no man's land. Like there's no man's land that we all see, like when you're like on the 12 or you're on the 10, and that's wrong. But there's also that mini like no man's land with a situation like this where now you're not really doing anything. You're making it too easy on the forward.
Sorry, no, that's why I like to do this session, because there's so many things that you learn about yourself, and there's so many times you see, and you got to try to make it eventually look like a replay to the keeper, so that like they feel like they've seen this play with you in training hundreds of times, and so it's not so daunting in a game.
Omar, I want to ask you this because, one of the things that we've been talking about, and Saskia just brought up that middle ground, because I think one of the issues that we also need to address in this here, and I know it's something that you've addressed a lot in your sessions, that's why I'm addressing this to you, is too much space, stealing too much space. And now you're too close to the player, which is disallowing you the wiggle room to be able to deal with them making a decision because you're too close to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think very rarely too, you'll see a young goalkeeper who is able to understand the spacing. I think as you get older and you've made your mistakes over and over and over, I think that is when you start understanding, okay, the pros and cons. I've discussed this with my goalkeeper coach. He's exposed me to these things, and they've given me the wiggle room, or they've given me that the safe space to learn how to understand that. So I think that's what it is. We just need to give our goalkeepers, obviously expose them to those situations, but let them make those mistakes over and over and over. I can't tell you how many times I've come out for a ball and I've gotten stuck in the middle of it. And then middle of the whole thing, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I know what's happening next. I remember one time we played against, this is not even, never mind. I won't tell the story. I got chipped in outfield. You guys remember that story. But I remember too.
The chip story. We love that story.
Well, I've remembered, for example, like even if you watch, for example, go watch the Dortmund versus Bayern Munich game. It was 2013 Champions League final, the winning goal that Arjen Robben scored. The goalkeeper comes out and Arjen Robben literally just like taps it to the other side, to his right side, and it just like trickles in. And I think, again, it's from a central position, but if it's a little bit wider, maybe he drops off a little bit. So now he has time to, again, I always say this to my goalkeepers, you want to put yourself in the best position possible to make a variety of saves. If you pigeonhole yourself and you're coming out 100 miles an hour, you don't allow yourself to get set, all they got to do is either touch it around you or touch it through you. You're done. And the block save, again, you're only covering a certain amount of surface area. You can't get outside there. So again, I try to tell them, look, you're going to make your mistakes, but understand if you have very good reaction time, you can get down to the ground quick, and that's a skill level and a skill set that you have. Understand that, be aware of that. So now that decision for next time you come out will put you in the best position to adhere to your strengths versus coming out, keeping yourself in no man's land, and now you have no buffer space to use your best attribute.
But I agree with what you said, Mike.
That's why I'm going to brainwash you guys into using field players.
But I use field players all the time. But
nothing like it.
Mike,
we don't have the money that Ryder.
But to agree with what you said in the question, there's also too close. And when you come out and you set too close, well, what are you going to do? Unless the field player dribbles the ball in your foot, like all they're going to do is take a quick touch and you're done. And
that's that literalization.
It's literal. And I'll tell somebody, and they'll make like a save, and I'm like, you did not save the ball. The field player screwed up and basically hit you with it. And I'm like, you were too close. You had no room to react. You don't even have room to do a foot save. Nothing. Basically they just took a touch and went right by you. So it is trial and error. It is seeing it.
Yes.
Repetition. Yes. And these are one of those things that, and we do it in functional training with UCLA. I said, these are the things that we need to work on. Like when I have forwards and Sam's with me and stuff like that. I need through balls. I need 3 goal situations. I need this decision making. And then it even came to towards the end of fall, I need this build up from further out, because a lot of times field player coaches will do this, that it's around the top of the box. So it's boom, 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 quick or something like that. I'm like, I need this to build from 45 yards out. I need them to start too high, have to come back, and then have to decide to go forward again, because that's the reality of goalkeeping. And like that coming back and then coming forward again, and then still judging and making sure where you are and understanding your peripheral. And so we had to, work on that as well.
So we did a little segment on what I call tweeners, the ball just outside of the box or just that gets right in on the edge of the box. And how many times have you seen that play messed up by a keeper?
Lord.
They come, and
my favorite is when they think, I'm like, I'll look at them and be like, you can't adjust yourself. You can't start withdrawing now. You're already out. Like you should have in the buildup of the play started to withdraw yourself. So now you can come forward for the tweener, but now you're trying to come back. So the goal's getting bigger and then you try to come forward. I'm just stay and deal with it at this point. Like just stay out.
And the tweener on a bouncing ball, which is kind of hard to recreate in training. Okay. But we get those in a game too, right? At least once a season, you've got to come out more than that. But you've got that awkward bouncing ball and you've got to use your head and you're outside the box and you're going, how did I get myself into this?
I got a couple red cards for that one.
No. And if your guys have seen it in training at least a couple of times, again, it looks like a replay instead of something they've never experienced before.
Yeah.
Omar, I want to bring this up with you because you do obviously a lot of personal training because you have a very popular social media channel, clearly. And one of the issues with a lot of times with coaches who do a lot of training in isolation or do private sessions is that they don't let the plays develop. They start too late into the play, like Saskia was bringing up. I'd much rather have some field players or even if I have goalkeepers and develop the session earlier and let it build into the final action rather than just having the goalkeepers dealing with that final action.
Right.
How have you been able to make that adjustment as a private coach?
And
if you haven't, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
It's hard.
Yeah, no,
it's hard. It's a hard thing.
It is. It's difficult. And I think you need to, again, in anything in life that you do, if you do it enough times, that becomes your norm. And I think for me, it has become my norm. And for a lot of coaches, I would say, I don't want to put anybody under that same if you're not doing it. But for me, it's become so normalized that I do it where I do progressions. And I think it's one criticism that you had from me, Mike, is like, look, don't get so caught up in the progressions. Understand what you're trying to get at, but don't get so caught up in going A, B, C, D, E. Right. So for me, I try to break out of that every once in a while and flirt with it and get them going right from the start. But I think from a private coach perspective, it's a little bit different. The mindset and the approach is a little bit different because, again, these kids are coming in to be exposed to certain things, but also too, they want to feel good after the practice. Mm-hmm. And to me, and I know you guys know, to have retention, you don't want a kid to go, that was god awful, mom, don't ever bring me here again. So I
yeah, sometimes I'm surprised when I get a call for the next session. I'm like, sweet.
I know. No, but I think, yeah, Mike, I think it's definitely it's a good discussion to have, but at the same time, it's also just like as much as uncomfortable as you can as a coach, it's going to help you like have breakthroughs. And I even had, not too long ago, I had a young kid who his mom was yelling at me and saying, hey, his head coach is telling me that he shouldn't be coming to you anymore because he's not understanding the dimensions of the goal. He keeps coming out way too far and giving himself up too soon. And I was like, okay, have the coach come in and watch the sessions. Like you can see what we're doing. And I was like, I want to work on the technical side, but at the same time too, I'm going to expose him to those 1v1 situations in practice where he understands what to do in those situations. So I got to have a healthy mix of both. And the coach is like, no, she's like, the coach wants you to work on 1v1s and that's it. I'm like, that's not how it works. The kid's 10 years old. It's not how it works. You know what I mean? So it's just, yeah.
I think there's a thing I said, like to talk to your point on that. Oops, sorry. I don't know why my phone's doing that. We've just gone through all our player meetings and stuff. And part of my thing is like, I have to do video analysis with the goalkeepers while they're on break and stuff. But when I asked for my videos, because of course I have a whole media staff and everything at UCLA because we're spoiled. But I don't need you to send me video clips of the save or the goal. I need you to send me a video clip that starts like a minute before, so that if it's on camera, so that I can show the buildup to the situation. And I think that what we're losing a lot in training and goalkeeper training is, like we said, it's that last pass. It's that, oh, we're at the top of the box, here's the through ball, blah, blah, blah. When that's not really reality. Like if we can emulate as much as, okay, like we said, the tweener, like if we can emulate that from even a one-on-one training scenario, like sometimes what I'll do is I'll start the keepers technically out of position too high. They have to withdraw, get to a cone, and then whether there's a dummy, I'm not saying I use a dummy, but I'm just giving you an example. Whether there's a dummy or something like that, they have to make a decision on the type of ball that I play in as they've withdrawn, and then make a decision, should I be coming forward? Is that too flat of a pass? Is that a 50-50 ball? Is that a 70-30 ball? And making that decision in the momentum of retracting and then coming forward. And so it's hard when it's one-on-one, but I mean, there are ways to do it. But I think we have to start focusing on what builds up to a shot as training, and not just the shot, not just,
for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
And not easy to do. Not easy to do.
Not without other players.
No. You have to have the right setting for sure.
But that is a challenge. By the way, Paul Blodgett just said Charlie has very good insight on these types of situations.
I just told Paul, I just talked to you yesterday.
Paul?
I just had like an hour conversation.
He's awesome.
He's
awesome.
He's the Zen master.
Saskia, you have to head out and get the pups again?
I gotta pick the pups up now.
Oh, you gotta pick the pups up.
No, but it's funny because we're all on the same page and we all have the same thought processes on stuff, but yet we sit here and we watch videos and we watch stuff that you just want to like bang your head against the wall. And so, you know, I think it's best when we have these conversations that young goalkeeper coaches out there and field player coaches understand that, you know, and even with me with UCLA, guys, we can't just keep doing functional training that starts at the top of the 18, that is near power finesse, something like this. Like, it's better for me if you're doing power finesse shooting. Why don't you start with that ball that gets passed down to that player in the corner that adds that second ball? So my goalkeeper moves from here to that near post. So that movement is what's teaching them, are they setting properly? Because if you're just standing there with a pile of balls at the near post for that slotted ball, it's not realistic. Make the goalkeeper move, because what we're finding is most goalkeepers aren't setting. They're still moving because they don't see that. It's like, oh, here's a ball, start here, pass it, shot. You know,
now you're cooking, Saskia.
I'm cooking.
Now you're cooking, because that's one of my biggest complaints is, not complaints, but I'm going to say, hitting a still ball isn't wrong, but it only takes a small fraction of what the goalkeeper needs to do. So what Mike and I talked about before is, I think there's 3 different scenarios. I think the timing of the set position is the most important factor. The timing of the set position is the most important factor in shot saving. And so now you have to have balls that first move laterally, so that you move laterally, and now you time when you get set. Balls that move forward vertically, and now that's a really tough ball. And I always tell the forwards, hit it first time. If you sense that they're coming,
hit it first time.
Like
absolutely.
Savarese, when Savarese played, you guys are too young to remember, when he played for the Metro Stars, he just used to, or like Raul would do. You guys are too young to remember that too. But balls that are coming, that are moving forward vertically, that the keeper has to move forward and has to time their set position. And then versus one, okay? And your mentor, Tony DeChico, would always say, control your weight, right?
Absolutely.
When you were in goal and the attacker would fake, would go to one side, and then you would lean with them, he would always say, control your weight. Well, that's what that 1 versus 1. So I think that, we're not doing justice. I'm big on that. We're not doing justice by hitting still balls.
No, and even if it's a quick little lateral, even if it's like 5 yards and you build to 10 yards or whatever it is, because that's the only way to work on that timing. And then you have to work on, their head movement. Are they moving with the pass? If they're moving with the pass, if that striker is going to hit first time, well, now you're already behind it.
You have to,
right? That ball's got to come, and while that ball's in its no man's land where nobody could touch it, your head's got to turn, so you know that person is teeing up to hit it first time, and you're set. If you go like this with the ball, boom, she hits it, you're done. Period.
The keepers need to see first time shots, and they need to see bent balls. And often a combination of first time and bent balls, because that's where goals are scored now, because there's no space in the penalty area. So guys, everybody's hitting first time balls and they're hitting bent balls. And so now you got to
like Omar, I like the drill that you did, because again, one-on-one is difficult, where you have the rebounder and you're hitting the ball off the rebounder. So the goalkeeper had to move to the rebounder. Technically, that's another player. It comes back to you, and then it's a two-touch or a first-time shot. So they have to move with that. And I love the way you make with yourself and one player, how you made a drill that can like make that lateral movement and that decision making with a rebounder. There's a good example of how we can like do it if you're one-on-one with a goalkeeper. So I like that drill.
Appreciate that. That'll justify to my accountant why I purchased that rebounder. So
Just tell them.
They're expensive.
They're very expensive.
They're great though. They're great.
They are, yeah.
But in those situations, and goalkeeper coaches out there, it's a good tool to utilize. I'm not telling you which brand to buy or anything. Talk to Omar. But I'm just saying it's a good thing to utilize.
Best getting a good one though. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I actually want to bring this up with you, Omar, because one of the things about the rebounder and also just a moving ball in general, Charlie, too, is that's because the thing is, if you're hitting a static ball, chances are that ball's going to be hit the same over and over again. If you're hitting a moving ball or if you're playing it off a rebounder, you don't really know from strike to strike really where the ball's going to go.
Well, I mean, I'm sure
you have an idea.
He's an amazing striker at this point. So,
but you're still going to shank some. You're still going to miss hit balls.
And that's realistic.
Exactly.
That's also too. I showed a session to the guy. I forgot my God, Anthony White from Bournemouth. He's not there anymore. But I showed it to him and I said, hey, if any critiques here, let me know what you think. And he was like, look, mate, I love what you're doing, but you're striking the ball. You're bringing it down with your feet only. What if the goalkeeper, or does a goalkeeper in the game only see a ball off the foot on a second touch and then a shot, or do they see it off the chest? They have to wait a second or two for that ball to come down, and then in that time, what are they doing? Are they setting too low? Are they pulsing too much? Are they stepping too far forward? He's like, you need to show them every way to trap a ball so they understand what that time looks like between when they trap it and that ball's bouncing to when the shot is taken. So to me, that was just a very, it kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh, crap, you're right.
Yeah, and Charlie brought this up. You have to look at, there's a total different thing if it's a bouncing ball, period. You can't take the space that you would do on a ball on the ground. A bouncing ball, 90% of the time, what's going to happen if somebody's hitting a half volley or a bouncing ball? It's going to dip over top of you. So where's your set position now? Are you too far forward? Where if it's on the ground slotted ball, you can take that space. But a bouncing ball, boom, over the top of you. So do you have to hold back a little more? And these are all decisions that we have to mimic in training so goalkeepers see them. It's not.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough bouncing ball, honestly, and something that I've really, really tried to focus on in the last 5-6 years is making sure that especially with the turf fields nowadays, that these kids are seeing, because they're all playing on turf fields.
It's a different kind of a strike. Amanda absolutely loves when we're doing shooting drills to add that in. So it's like over the top of the attackers, they turn on it and dealing with that bouncing ball volley, and it totally changes set positions for my goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Yes, but even more so for the forwards. We spent all fall hitting first time balls, bent balls, and bouncing balls. But because they have to have the confidence to do it in a game. I'm looking from the other side of the ball. I'm looking from the head coaching standpoint, but you have to see. Yeah,
you're on the dark side now. I understand how.
It's okay.
It's totally cool.
Omar, I think you could have been a field player at this point.
No, I honestly, I think I
mean, he
could.
did score 2 goals in spring ball, so obviously he could have been
I
a field
did.
player. So
Hey, my strike is incredible at this point. From coaching.
I know we've been going for a while here, and I know obviously Saskia has to go and get the pups. But one thing I do want to bring up with you Charlie, is you talked about, one of the issues that we have a lot of times when it comes to either wide service or through ball work is that we make it just through ball work or wide, flighted service. When in reality, in the real game, when service goes wide, it can be a through ball, it can be a flighted ball, it can be a driven shot. And we need to make sure that we're adding all those elements, even if it's a quote unquote flighted ball session.
I have to be honest with you, and I'll let Charlie answer, but when I'm watching small sided with UCLA, when I'm doing all that, it's rare you see a flighted ball anymore. Like a ball where the goalkeeper comes and just can clean house and pick that up. I mean, these balls are whipped in there. They're driven.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like the days of I do crossing practice, but the days of that, nice crossing, those things are over, man. These girls and these guys now, that ball is driven in there to get a flick on, to get something, and to hit somebody so it goes in the goal. And it's a different game in that respect now.
I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but again, the field players, and I'm gonna use an example, Saskia, your alma mater. I was at Rutgers coaching the goalkeepers for 1 year, and Brian Grazier, I don't know if you know Brian, but Grazier was he played in the MLS for a while. He was on staff, and one thing I've learned to do over the years is just, beg people to stay after and train the goalkeepers. And Grazier would whip in left-footed crosses that recreated something you really would see in a game. Yeah. And I agree with you. And still my argument is that if you're coaching the goalkeepers, I think you miss a lot of points when you're hitting those crosses yourself. I think you miss the starting point.
I agree 100%.
I think you miss the path to the ball, which to me, the starting point and the path to the ball, especially when it's a crowded area, are the two of the biggest points that you have to get right. And if you're crossing the ball, you got to be really good. You got to have really good eyes to see all of that. So I prefer to have someone else cross it.
No, my leg and my knee prefer to have somebody else cross it at this point.
I'm making an excuse really, because I can't, but I like to stand right behind the goal or right to the side and watch the starting point and adjust the starting point. And, the biggest critiques, and I had some film, but maybe I'll invite myself back to show you.
Well, you've got the whole convention presentation that you got to do and stuff like that. So
no. But we had a segment on crossing, and the big thing would be just to stand there, and if there's a bad play, I instead of just yelling at them, I'll just say, what should you have done? And it's a lot of times they have the answer. Should have taken a better path to the ball.
Can you guys tell where I grew up playing goalkeeper or what?
Yeah.
I mean, Omar and I don't even need to be on this podcast, honestly. We got an hour and a half. Jersey people can talk 4 hours on goalkeeping, but
stay where you're at, Mike. It's cold. It's cold here today. Stay where you're at.
I will say this, one of the things that I really loved about when I first met Charlie, one is that also I didn't want to say you put unrealistic demands, but you expected a certain level from the goalkeepers. And I don't mean that you didn't want them to make mistakes, but you expected them to be accountable for their actions. Yep. And can you talk a little bit about that? Because in through ball situations, that's one of the biggest mistakes at the youth level is that goalkeepers are not left accountable for their actions. They're either given the wiggle room of it was a 1v1, there's nothing you could do. Or it was like, oh man, you should have made a play on that ball, as opposed to, you got to deal with yours.
Yeah, no, you got to know who you're dealing with too, because, the criticism, you can see it in a player's eyes, a goalkeeper's eyes, that you're crushing them. And boy, I've gotten away from that because that's the way goalkeeping training was in the beginning, in the old days, the Stone Age, it was, man, you were just beating this guy, and physically and mentally. And one, you can't really do that too much anymore. But I was just asking, like, what do you think you could have done better? Like, I think you could have made a better play on that. And that's why I think that through ball play, there's so much of a gray area that, you can't just let him go by saying this is it's a breakaway. You know what I mean? He should have scored, because to me, that's a game change. That's probably the biggest game changing play. And I think that's where we really need to focus on our goalkeeping training, is these game changing plays. I mean, penalty kicks are game changing plays. Corner kicks, again, we can talk another time. I have an exercise where I try to recreate a crowded box in a corner kick, because most times the keeper, if he fails, it's because he didn't deal well with the traffic. So I mean, again, it's putting him in realistic and difference-making plays in training.
Yeah. Well, guys, we've been going for over an hour and a half, and Charlie, honestly, I want to thank you for taking all this time with us.
Pleasure was mine. It was great.
Yeah,
I love that really quick. I love Paul Blodgett after I said, Jersey. If we were talking about Jersey, he's like, "Damn right." Love you, Blodge.
Oh man, no, well, like I said, we got that quota. Charlie, every month got to at least have one Jersey person on. That's kind of
all right.
That's.
I'm ready. I'll be emailing you and inviting myself back. That's
Charlie, it's great seeing you.
Same here, Saskia.
Honestly, man, Charlie.
Omar, as the session goes on, you're looking more and more like Sasha Swarovski every time I look at you. I think I'm talking to him. I don't know if you've ever gotten that before, but
no. Most of my friends don't know who that is.
No, he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Did you ever come into contact with Sasha, Omar, in the recruiting anything like that?
Are you talking about the one from Maryland?
Yeah.
No, I never did.
No, Sasha Swarovski, who lives in Van Nuys. That's
yeah, I never met.
Who runs the Chevron station there?
Sasha Swarovski, the baritone from the Boston Pops. What other? Who else?
All right, kids. I gotta.
All right, we got to get out of here. Guys, follow Saskia Webber at Saskia_Webber on all social media platforms. Jersey Rules at ProGK Academy _ on Instagram, ProGK Academy on YouTube. Charlie, if anybody wants to connect with you, you're obviously an open book and you're willing to share everything with young goalkeeper coaches, which is absolutely fantastic.
You can email me a writer, Inverso@writer.edu. That would be the easiest way.
Awesome, guys. And every guys, guest suggestion, topic suggestion at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms, or contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com. If for the exact same thing. I'm losing my voice. We've gotten so much out of this show, guys. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.